This is the Worship Team Training Podcast with your host and training director, Brannon Dempsey. Worship Team Training provides live workshops and online resources to help inspire, create, and transform the leading of worship. Now, here's your host, Brannon Dempsey.
Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Worship Team Training weekly show. Tuesday, also Worship Team Training University. How is everybody? How are you guys doing today? Worship leaders out there. We are going to start our show today. As you see, we have our special guest with us, Joey O'Connor. Joey's a great friend. Going to jump into that about all that good stuff there as we get things going. But welcome back. I'm so glad to have you. My name is Brannon Dempsey of Worship Team Training and also Worship Team Training University. It's so great to have you on this terrific Tuesday. We got great people coming in. Who is coming in with us right now on Periscope, also live on Facebook? Keela, what's going on? Good friend over there on Periscope. Also, Gary, thanks so much for joining us. Great friends coming in on Facebook Live as well. Thanks, guys, so much. And you may be listening to us by the playback of our audio through iTunes and Spreaker, as well as you may be joining us right now live as you're watching this as a Worship Team Training University member. So thanks so much for coming. We got a lot to talk about today, and we are so excited to see you. It is Easter week, Passion Week, as it's mainly known for. How is your week going in celebrating our Lord Jesus, who's gone before us, and to walk that road that we did not have to for the grace and mercy that He's provided? We are so thankful for that, and we are thankful for you for joining us today. Let's do some link shout outs. I'm going to also ask you guys very, very nicely, please, would you share this out with all your friends? All you need to do is swipe and invite. You're watching on Periscope, Facebook Live. Go ahead and hit the share button and share this out with all your friends, your worship leaders, pastors, musicians, singers, audio tech, filmmakers. This is who these broadcasts are for, in which we air every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we talk about your stuff. We talk about what you go through as a worship team, just like how we're having Joey on today to talk about his world and what he does as it relates to artistry, development of our craft, as well as the protection of it as we talk about copyright. And you can't miss this coming Thursday. Man, we have a fireball lady coming at you. Her name is Susan Fontaine Godwin, and she runs Christian Copyright Solutions. She is the queen. They call her the queen of copyright. And she's going to be with us this Thursday to talk about how we can, as songwriters, protect our music by copyright, but also as a church, what are some things that we can be doing as a church to make sure that we're walking in integrity, to make sure we're protecting our work, but also the work of others, that we sing songs week in, week out. It's a very big, important deal. I would like to do this real quick. Also, share out to you, by the way, you guys following us on Snapchat, thank you so much. You guys have been sending us messages over the past week about your worship team, and it's been fun to read all the silly stuff and also some of the serious stuff. So thanks for that. If you too want to follow us on Snap, I'm going to put the link out right now to Twitter and also on Facebook Live. And our address is really very simple. It's at WorshipTT. And so follow us, because you'll see other content that we put out throughout the day and the week, and other encouragement and biblical reminders of worship that you won't get anywhere else. And hang on just for a second. Let's see. That's them. Thanks. Okay. Sorry, we had something else going on in the background right there. But wow, we have this coming. We have the Songwriters Contest. A lot of you guys have been asking us if we were having that come back, and the answer is a big, big yes. And so you don't want to miss it, because the deadline is May the 26th. So as we are talking about creation of song and art, you don't want to miss this contest. The grand prize winner will win a brand new Shure recording microphone, as well as Kaiser Capos is on board, Christian Musician, Worship Musician Magazine. These guys do an incredible job, and we're so thankful. Mitch Bohannon out from Kaiser Capos. Thank you so much, Mitch, and all the great people out there who's making this happen. Shure microphones. You don't want to miss the contest. You can look at the link right there that I just put out, and just follow the rules. If you break them, well, it may not be a good thing, but who says it's probably a bad thing either? But if you do a good job with your music, we also will have it reviewed by one of our industry professionals that's in Nashville. So, hey, to have your song freely reviewed, People pay a lot of money for that stuff, so you're getting a really good deal. We also ask that you become a subscriber to worshipteamtraining.com/enews. You can pick that up right now on, as I just put that out to Twitter and also Facebook Live. And so we want to get going. If you want to find more of this content that you're watching right now, the full article that we're putting out on today's topic, as well as you can watch the playback of the show anytime. You can also have access to webinars and more training content. You want to become a Worship Team Training University member. It's just that easy. For a price of a latte a month, you can be a member, and you can get over 700 articles that we're putting out right now, as well as monthly webinars. There's free ebooks that we give away, special discounts, so you can't miss it. You definitely don't want to miss the awesome training that we have for you. So let's get right to today's show as we're talking about copyright. Is it myth or fact? And what does it mean to be an artist in the church? If you're a songwriter, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a media content creator, what does it mean for you to put out art for God? What are some of the struggles that you go through, and what are the shared experiences that you have that maybe can help others? This is exactly why we're having my good friend Joey O'Connor on board. Joey is awesome. This guy, we've known each other now for close to 15, 16 years or something, and just an awesome dude. I mean, just an incredible film director, writer. He is the founder and executive director for the Grove Center for the Arts and Media in Southern California. It's an arts ministry. He's a writer, screenwriter, pastor. He's written 20 books and an award-winning screenplay. And he's also the managing partner of Segovia Entertainment, and that is an innovative media investment group committed to creating inspiring entertainment. So without further ado, everybody, please welcome Joey O'Connor. Joey, how are you today?
Doing great, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Man, thanks so much for coming on board. This has been great. I've been excited. The whole past 2 months we've been talking.
Yeah, I'm really excited with what's going on with Worship Team Training. You've got so many great resources for worship leaders. Not many groups like you out there.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And you know, it's special to have you because for you guys to know how Joey and I met each other, we're in a mentoring group together that started in, kind of both in Tennessee, but also in Southern California with Martin Allen.
Right.
And Martin Allen, myself, and Joey, we kind of all go back to the same school, and we have a lot of colleagues that we all studied our masters and theology and stuff like that together. So it's great to have you today. Thanks so much, Joey.
Well, great being with you, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, man. So let's jump right into it. And we also invite you guys, as always, if you're watching by Periscope, Facebook Live, listening to the audio playback, go ahead and ask your questions. All you need to do is just comment into the box and let us know what's up. So, Joey, as we talk about creating art and we talk about filmmaking, songwriting, or whatever it may be, what are some of the challenges that you see in new and young writers?
Right. Great question. You know, especially for the worship leaders that I know who are young millennials, or maybe they've got 2 or 3 kids, they're married, in the whole span, older worship leaders who've been doing this for 25, 30 years. I think one of the key issues that I see a lot of worship leaders wrestle with when it comes to their art and creativity is that they don't have enough bandwidth in their lives to pour into their creative work. So the tyranny of the urgent, the busyness, the pace of life, the hurried rush that we can all tend to get in, that I think is one of the biggest forces that impact the creative life of not only a worship leader, but any artist in general.
And so, can you kind of give us a little bit more about, as I love what you just said, that we're so urgent, right, about creating the art. So right. how do we as worship leaders, I guess, I don't know about maybe pouring life in, but how do you receive and have life poured into you? Yeah,
it's a key issue because, as we know, the Scripture says, guard your heart, for out of it flow the sources of life. And so when a worship leader looks at their passion, their calling, perhaps the church that they've been called to serve in, I think the healthiest worship leaders that I know are those who carve time out of their week to be intentional to say, hey, this is going to be time spent where I'm creating, one, because it's good for their soul, because that's why they got into this thing to begin with, was God pouring into them and their desire to lead a congregation, a group of people into an experience of God in worship. So that first step of pouring into their own lives through time spent. And as you know, you can't hurry or rush creativity. But in a lot of the conversations I've had with worship leaders who they've got their practices, rehearsals with their worship team, a lot of worship leaders just feel this crunch with a very short set list of what they can play and or what their senior pastor may want them to play, and so that can really squelch their creativity, because say you've got a worship leader who's written 2 or 3 original songs, but they're not popular or they're not known yet, and so depending upon the ethos of the church, do they welcome that new creativity, new songs springing out from that community, or do they not? So a number of different issues there, but a number of conflicting tensions that I think worship leaders are faced with in pursuing their own creativity.
So, Joey, like we've talked, you and I have grown up talking a lot about mentoring over these years. How important is it for not just a young worship leader, but even for the seasoned worship leader or artist to be mentored by others? What does that mean?
You know, it's a great question. When I think of mentoring, I think of just the general category of continuous learning throughout life. And there's so much to be learned by other people's experience, by a mentor who can come alongside me and speak to not only the creative issues in my life, but the personal issues, because we all go through different seasons of life where we can't anticipate some of the challenge. So for a seasoned worship leader, they're going to have their stage of life issues and challenges, whether it's leadership in their local church, whether it's a family or marriage issue, or perhaps they're raising teenagers or kids that are in college, or they're perhaps looking to transition out of worship leading if they see kind of an end to the runway. So within all of that, mentoring is huge because none of us are made to go it alone. But there's a lot of people that just get isolated. They get kind of in a comfort zone. So when I think of mentoring, who are the people that are in my life who can ask me the really poignant questions? Because the people that have always impressed me most are the ones that are asking not only the hard questions, but the real insightful questions that, just serve as a catalyst to help me grow.
Wow. Can you share with us a time, what happened with you? I mean, you write, you do a lot of screenwriting and authoring. What have you been through where maybe you felt like you hit a wall, and then that one person God brought into your life to help refire up your creativity?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a great example. I'm 53 now, but in my 30s, I hit an absolute wall when I went through 7 years of chronic pain from my wrist, from typing so much. It culminated in the year 2000, where I went through like a 3-month depression.
Wow.
And it all stemmed back from losing my job at a church 7 years earlier. That was the onset of the pain. Wow. And I had one man who spoke into my life, and like a laser beam to my heart, he looked at me, and he was very prophetic in what he said. He said, "You have closed your heart off to God and his church because you've been rejected by men."
Huh.
And that was the pivotal statement when I drove home that night from this prayer meeting. And I was like, Lord, what was that about? But it was pivotal. And it was from the seeds of that broken experience, 7 years of severe chronic pain, and having this one man speak into my life, that was the turning point that led me to go back to work in a church. And from that, the seeds of the Grove, the ministry I'm now doing, were born. So everything that I've been about the past 15 years, it all came out of brokenness, but it was one man who helped pull me out of it.
Wow. That's amazing. And by the way, we did put your link up right now for folks. You can see the link of the Grove Center on our Facebook and Twitter. You know, I mean, I'm touched by that story because for those of you in ministry, leading worship, whatever, I don't think there's anyone who's ever gone through ministry who's ever said every week was a great week. Every worship experience was just top notch, 10 out of 10. I think that all of us have hit that wall at some point, and it could have been you maybe last week where you're saying, wow, this just did not go over that well. And so I think that's very uplifting, Joey, to hear that, God does not want us to close off our heart because of what man has done. I mean, that's such a great impact, because that could really stop a person from creating God-given art.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many issues that artists in general deal with where they put their work out there and it's so tied to their identity and their self-esteem. So when someone gives it a critique, or they're going, I think it needs more work, they just crumble. And so, a lot of what we focus on at the Grove is if we first care for the heart, the art 9 times out of 10 will follow. And so much of my passion and desire is to see artists who are healthy and whole, so that what's birthed out of that full heart is really good, solid work coming from a healthy place.
So, is it having good art, or is it really more about having a good soul to God?
Well, I think it's a both and, because, and this is where when we speak about mentoring, there are people in our lives who are mentors, but I love reading a lot of old dead guys, spiritual giants of the past, who are mentors to me. And so one of my favorite writers is an old Catholic monk named Thomas Merton. And he talks about this wrestling match between man and God. And he says that's really a false argument that man wrestles with God, because God is always for man. And so if we can see that God is for me, God is for my art, God is for my music, it's this whole thing of with, and I'm doing this with God. Now, I don't live in that space all the time, I'll tell you. I've got plenty of stuff I'm wrestling with. But if we can view this as, hey, it's not an either or, is it God first or my art first? It's moving in that place where Christ truly lives in me. And so I'm just going to trust that and walk in confident assurance that he's moving through my life, my art, what I create, what I serve before others, perhaps on a Sunday morning or some type of show or concert. Boy, we've cracked open a lot of things we can talk about.
Yeah, I love it. But, this is, I think, where a lot of artists live. I love what you said, because that brings back into the phrase of, well, I want to do my art or do these songs for God or for people. When you just shared a different perspective doing it with him, because God is always for man. He's always with us, never left us.
Absolutely. And so that for me as a writer, because there's some days when I look up what's on the screen, I'm like, that's just a load of crap. I've got to recreate that. But if I understand, hey, this is a process, and I need to leave a lot of room for failure, because God's with me, and he's not critiquing me like the voices in my head, or like a mom or dad or an old teacher or professor or whatnot.
Wow.
And so if we leave room for curiosity and experimentation and failure, that's why, like we talked about at the very beginning, it's really important to factor in bandwidth in our week, because we need to go through that experimentation process versus, hey, I need to crank out I made a goal and I'm going to write 3 songs this week.
But that's why there has to be failure. There has to be that space where you can then, have God help you dig yourself out and learn from those experiences. Yeah.
You know what? It was interesting. I was reading something the other day, and this is a wonderful fact. Most people don't know that the Beatles started as a cover band.
Yeah.
And the only reason why they started writing their own songs was that nobody would copy their set list. So they were spurred on by this desire to create, and did that just spontaneously. But they studied the masters, just all the great guitarists that they love and rock musicians as they were getting started. And so I think in that bandwidth, in that space for failure and experimentation, I would say to a worship leader, gosh, what music do you love? What makes you come alive, or what creative activities that may aren't related to your music? What really ignites your soul, drives your creativity, and really spurs you on to create something where you know that you're creating good work and you're progressing in your craft.
Love that. So when artists, writers, screenwriters, music, they have a craft, they have it done. Tell us, what are some steps they may take to protect their good work?
Right. This is relevant whether you're a musician, a worship leader, a writer, filmmaker. One, you've got this small governmental office called the U.S. Copyright Office, and so as a writer, I'll submit stuff to the U.S. Copyright. Screenwriters, they have the WGA to submit their treatments or film scripts to. For musicians, there is so much information out there on how to protect your songs, your original content, the music that you're creating. And so I look at it in two lanes, and because this is where we're always pushing artists to progress in their life. One is the personal creative side of their craft. Really focus on creating good work. The other focus is look to grow in your craft in your level of professionalism. So if you're not sure about what it means to get your work copyrighted, where to submit it to, how to protect it, there's really no excuse today why I can't have all my work protected, because everything's available on the internet. This is where mentoring is important, to talk to other people who've cut their albums, recorded, struck deals with recording companies to make sure that they have the most or the up-to-date and best legal and professional help to protect their craft. So it's those two lanes of create great work, but also grow in your professionalism to get the facts that you need for copywriting your work.
That's fantastic. Joey, and thanks so much. By the way, can you, about the time we got left, what's the deal with the avocados in the background?
Okay, so part of our work with the Grove Center for the Arts and Media is, the reason why we call it the Grove is that we actually have a 12-acre organic lemon and avocado grove in North San Diego County. So this painting was painted by one of our former board members, Wayne Fort. He's a great visual artist. So it's just a very fond, sentimental painting that I have. And so we just love great art and avocados and guacamole.
And I'm getting hungry as I'm thinking about it, because I'm thinking like California tacos and already. There's a lot that was said here, a lot that you shared from your heart. Thank you. Tell us, out of everything that was spoken today, what's the one thing that you keep coming back to?
Boy, I really think it comes down to pace of life and looking at how has God uniquely made me as a worship leader, as an artist, as a writer, and how can I lean into what my calling and my craft is and not put them in opposition or competition with one another, but how can I build enough bandwidth in my life, making time for excelling or working on my craft and walking with God. And so it really goes back to kind of what my life mission is. How do I cultivate my spiritual life and my creative work? And God's made me to walk in both of those places. So if there's anything you listen or gain from, is maybe that's just to ask yourself that question this week. What am I doing to cultivate my walk with God? What am I doing to cultivate my craft?
Right. Very good. Keela, thank you for that. She's digging everything that you're saying, Joey, on Periscope. And also Stephanie Renee Smith asked real quick on Facebook Live, is it through the Library of Congress that you copyright songs? Yes.
Yes.
So you can, like what Joey said, you can, if you go to, I think it's just uscopyright.gov.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll give you all the tools that you can find, Renee.
Right. There's usually a fee, depending upon that. There's usually a fee with that, just FYI.
Right. And then also, guys, remember, we're having Susan come up this Thursday. You don't want to miss this because she's the copyright queen. She's going to share all of what it means to not just copyright your work, but to make sure that your work in your church is also in compliance with copyright and there's not infringement going on and stuff like that. So she can help us uncover those awesome nuggets. Joey, thank you so much for being here today with us and sharing your heart and your ministry at the Grove.
Great, Brandon. Great being with you.
Awesome. Thank you, man. We're going to have Joey come back later on this year, and you can't miss it. So, Joey, again, just thanks for your time. Love it.
Great. Awesome. Thanks for everyone listening. Have a great day.
Yes, and so as we move on, remember, we got guys like Joey. We have more local worship leaders coming up next Tuesday, because Tuesdays are our local worship leader, local minister kind of days that we do interviews like with Joey, or maybe it could be Matt across the pond in the UK, whatever. And then on Thursdays, when you become a member at Worship Team Training University, you can see people like Tommy Walker, John Chisholm. We have all these other fantastic people that are coming. Carl Albrecht, we have that webinar coming up. It's called Behind the Drums. Now that's going to be fantastic because that's later on, I think April the 19th. So you want to go to WTTU.co to get more. And one more thing too, on a serious note, as Joey and I were discussing about mentoring, and I'm glad that Joey brought that up because it's a big deal with what we do here at Worship Team Training. You can find that at worshipteamtraining.com/mentoring. So if you feel like maybe, I'm a worship leader, musician, or I'm a pastor or audio tech, we have a lot of guys go through our doors that are audio techs that are mentored by Kent Morris. We have others like Sally Morgenthaler. We have other female worship leaders and male worship leaders that need extra help. This is why we do what we do. I would say that mentoring really is the backbone of what we do here at Worship Team Training. So if you feel like, maybe I've lost a step or I don't know where the next step is, the reality of it is that God's already put that in your heart. What's so incredible about God, like what Joey shared with us today, God is with us. God's already put into you his plans. Now it's just the journey of discovering what those plans are and following what his word says about it in order for you to get there. So we invite you to take that step with us at worshipteamtraining.com/mentoring and see what this program can do for you. We have a lot of content and a lot of resources. So like what Joey said, like there's no excuse to copyright your work. Hey, there's no excuse for you to be more developed as a musician or leader within your church. And if you don't get help here, you can get help somewhere. But the whole idea is that you get what God's giving you and that you do well with what he's provided. So other than that, let's have a great day and week walking with Jesus as we celebrate Passion Week. Guys, thanks so much for being here today. Again, we want to thank Joey O'Connor for being here with us on this fantastic Tuesday. Keela, all of our friends out in Periscope, Facebook Live, thanks for joining us. We love you guys. Have an awesome day, and we'll see y'all very, very soon this coming Thursday. Love ya. See ya. Bye.
This has been a Worship Team Training broadcast and digital production with your host and training director, Brannon Dempsey. Worship Team Training provides live workshops and online resources to help inspire, create, and transform the leading of worship. We'll see you again right here on worshipteamtraining.com.